In this lesson, I want to anchor one big idea straight from the IRS own playbook. Brand new construction and used building you acquire live in completely different worlds under cost segregation. We've been talking a lot about the IRS cost segregation audit technique guide. In short, ATG, where your examiners is literally reading from. Treat them differently. If you don't, you will either leave money on the table or walk into an audit with a file you can't defend. So in this video, we are going to use the ATG plus real study example to make the distinction concrete, not just in theory. We'll talk about what the good looks like for a new building, what's good look like for an acquisition, how land allocation and renovation make both messier, and how to match the method to fact patterns you align with the ATG from day one. Let's start on home tough, new construction. When a client hands you a ground up project or a major build out, the ATG tell you exactly what the ideal method is. It calls the detailed engineering approach from actual cost record. That's the IRS speak for use the real construction and accounting records like blueprint, specs, contract, job report, change order, and pay app invoices to trade actual dollars into specific components. The ATG flat out say this is generally the most methodological and accurate approach because it leans on solid documentation and minimal estimation. And then it adds an important qualifier. This approach is generally applied only to new construction, where detailed cost record is available. So when you see a new build with a fat job binder, your brain should immediately go, great, this is the ATG approved fact pattern for a detailed engineering study using actual cost. Think about how different that feels from guessing up a purchase price. In a well-done new build study, the engineer isn't just saying, we think 25% is 5 years. We think literally mapping the line item. This line is for decorative lighting. That is 5 year 1245 section. This line is side utility paving and retaining wall. So that's 15-year land improvement. This line is for structural framing and load-bearing walls. So that stay in 27.5 or 39 year, which is section 1250. You see that approach show up in your study. Take one of the sample project, right? Say a funeral home with a building cost around $1.29 million and a cost that apply a year after acquisition. The study assumes 17% of that building cost is 5-year property and 7% is 15 year, with the remaining 76% in 39 years. That's not pulled out of the thin air. The percentages are backed by an engineering style breakout of actual construction cost. So think like specialized interior finishes, millworks, certain electrical and plumbing runs, and site improvement that qualify for shorter lives. The result is exactly what you would expect. So the first few years show a huge spike in depreciation compared to straight line 39 years. Then the numbers level up. And because the study tied directly back to cost record, you can handle that report to an examiner and walk them from a total project cost to each asset pool. So if you are advising builder, developer, or owner doing big tenant build-outs, here how you use the ATG to your advantage. You tell them up front, if we keep your project costs organized, we can justify using the IRS preferred method, which is detailed engineering from actual cost record. And that where the best, most defensible result come from. Then you ask for the same thing. The ATG say examiners look for like blueprint, specs, contract, change order, payment, request, invoices. So you're not being picky. You are aligning with the standard the IRS already wrote out. That's the clean word of new construction. Now let's walk into a messier word, right? Which is acquired property, old property, right? For used or acquired property, the ATG literally shift gears. It says that where original construction documents are not available, an alternative approach, say for example, the detailed engineer cost estimate approach may be more appropriate. What does that mean? You still do engineering, but now you are estimating. You are working backwards from what you pay, not forwards from what you build. You see that clearly in the apartment study in this project. So in that case, the taxpayer bought a 124 unit garden style complex, originally built in 1985, with a total purchase price of about $7.05 million. The cost sec report built on top of appraisal starts the carving out land, so roughly about $916,500 is land. So probably about 13% of the purchase price is assigned to land. So that leaves around $6.13 million in improvement basis. From there, the study allocates that improvement basis into roughly 23% to 5-year property, a small slide maybe around 0.7% to 7 years, and around 15% to 15-year land improvement. And the remaining 61% to 27.5-year residential building. Those percentages don't come from invoices, they come from measurements of the actual property, cost manual, and modeling of replacement cost new, all reconciled back to the purchase price. This is exactly what the ATG is talking about when it describes engineering cost estimate method. The appraiser or engineer measure, quantify, and qualify item to determine new and replacement cost. Then use those to split the purchase price into short life and long life buckets. The key difference from new construction is this. With an acquisition, the numbers are inherently more model driven. You are leaning on external cost databases and appraised allocations instead of original job cost records. That doesn't make the study bad, it just shifts where the risk sits. So assumptions around land value matter more. Assumptions around what count as section 1245 versus section 1250 matters more. And the examiner will lean harder on whether the methodology is reasonable and documented. So when you are working with acquisition, you want to use the ATG like a checklist. Do we have an appraisal that break out land and improvements, or are we just guessing like 80-20? Did someone actually measure and classify building components, or is it a rule of thumb percentage with no engineering behind it? Can we reconcile the sum of all the component value back to the purchase price and the closing statement? If the answer to the question is yes, you are moving into the direction of an ATG quality study for an acquisition. If the answer is no, you are in please audit me territory. Now let's start in the two things that blow up both scenarios if you ignore them: land allocation and renovations. So first, land. The ATG reminds agents that the most common purpose for a cost segregation study is to allocate or reallocate building costs between section 1250 buildings and section 1245 tangible personal property. And that land is not of that game. So land is never depreciable. The guy leans on the old investment tax credit regulation and specially point out that tangible personal property exclude land and improvements that are inherent in permanent structures like buildings and their structural components. So if you are doing a study on a purchase and your land value is whatever the tax court say, or we just use 5% because that the client didn't like 20%, you are asking for a fight. Look back at that apartment example. The land allocation is about 13% of the 7.05 million. It's not random. It's grounded in appraisal, right? It's supported by market data and county records, and it's reconciled mathematically. Purchase price minus land basis equal improvement basis that the cost stack then slice up. That's the kind of story an examiner can follow. For new construction on land your client already owns, the land issue looks different, but it's just as important. Here, the trap is depreciating land inside a lump sum building number. The land basis from the original purchase has to be separated from the later construction cost, and only the construction costs go into cost stack. The ATG expect examiners to watch for this because any land that's sneak into depreciable basis inflate every downstream number. Then there are renovations. Renovations create different kind of headaches. What's the remaining basis in the old component that got ripped out? Did you dispose of the assets and claim a loss? How do the new short line improvements sit on top of an older building already being depreciated? The repair regs and tangible guidance in the funeral home package in this project lead into that. They expect you to distinguish between betterments and repair, and between new components and the post one. From a cost sec perspective, renovations often become mini construction projects that are actually easier to study than the original acquisition. Because why? Because you have fresh data. You have fresh invoices, quotes, and scope of work that spell out things like new parking lot and sidewalk, new interior build out on specific area like kitchen, lab, offices, or new specialized lighting, wiring, or plumbing that clearly more than a baseline building function, right? So even if the original building basis were handled with a simple 27.5 or 39-year allocation, those later renovation projects might justify a targeted engineering study that cut out the 5, 7, 15-year property and dispose of the old component. The planning takeaway for both investor and tax pro is simple. Treat major renovation like a separate trackable project. Insist on cost categories that line up with tax line, like sidewalk, building shells, interior finishes, equipment, specialty system, rather than just one giant like tenant improvement line. And document that what was removed, not just what was added. So how do you actually choose the method in real life, right? The ATG give you 6 commonly used methodology, from the detailed engineering approach using actual cost record all the way down to the rule of thumb method. It is not shy about which one it likes. The detailed engineering approach from actual cost record is described as the most methodological and accurate. And the ATG explicitly tie it to new construction where the record exists. The detailed engineering cost estimate approach is what it points you to for use, or when you use it for use to acquire property, and for a situation where the original documentation is missing. Survey or letter approaches, regimental method, sampling, and rule of thumb percentage get progressively more questionable. They may be acceptable in limited circumstances, but the examiner is told to scrutinize them heavily. So the decision framework really looks like this. It is a new build, and you have full construction records. Your default target is a detailed engineering study based on actual cost. If it's an acquisition and you do not have the original cost records, you are in the realm of engineering cost estimates. So measurements, cost manual, appraisal, residential allocations. So you make sure the provider is actually doing that work, not just applying generic percentages. If it's a big renovation, you treat it like a new project, layer onto an old one, and decide whether a separate detailed study on the improved cost makes sense. And regardless of the method, you check your report against the ATG quality study checklist, a clear summary letter, a narrative that explains the project and methodology, schedules of assets and costs, engineering procedures, assumptions, and exhibits that back up the numbers. If your study looks and read like what the ATG says an examiner should be looking for, you are in much safer territory. Finally, let's translate this into how you talk to clients. For clients building new properties, you can tell them, if we collect and preserve your construction records, we can use the IRS preferred engineering method that usually means more upfront loaded depreciation and a report we are comfortable defending. For a client buying existing property, you might want to say we are working backwards from the purchase price. The quality of the appraisal, the land allocation, and the engineer estimate will drive both your tax benefit and your audit risk. And for clients renovating, you frame it as a second chance. Even if the original purchase wasn't sturdy, a major renovation with good documentation let us classify new short-lived assets correctly and potentially write off old ones. Your role as a tech role isn't just to say yes or no to cost seg, it's to steer client toward the facts patterns the ATG favor. New builds with solid record in one lane, acquisition with credible appraisal and engineering estimate in another, and well-documented renovation in a third. So to wrap up this lesson, new construction is where you lean into detailed engineering from actual cost record. Acquired properties are where you lean into detailed engineering cost estimate, anchor in appraisals and measurements. Land allocation and renovations are the pressure points that can make your study defensible or blow it up. And the ATG is the shared playbook. You, your engineer, your examiner are all reading from the same guide. You just want to be the one who got there first. In the next lesson, we are to zoom out and look at cost seg providers and report as a whole, how to read them through an ATG lens so you can decide which study you are truly willing to sign into and which one you should put back on.